Okay, just for the record, I need your name
Yes.
and go ahead.
My name is Desiree Preston, or I go by Anasni Bowles in cosplay. So
Okay, how long have you been cosplaying?
I've been cosplaying since 2008 now. So wow, it's 5 years.
Um, are you doing this professionally now, or
I'd like to do it professionally. I just do it for fun, all out of my own pocket. But the goal is one day getting paid to do this because it's what I love.
okay, okay. Um, do you make your own costumes?
Yes, I do. I make them completely by hand.
And how long does it usually take you?
If I actually don't procrastinate and get distracted by Netflix or the internet, usually about a week, give or take, a week or so. If it's a
Okay.
more complicated costume, like armor, that'll take like months. But for a spandex costume, not long at all.
Okay. What is the most complex costume you've done so far?
So far, I actually cosplayed Samantha Byrne from Gears of War 3. It's not done yet. It's kind of a rough first shot, but that took a very long time. And I had never worked with craft foam or thought to make armor before, so it was a learning process, and that was very complicated because her armor is detailed.
You say you're still working on it. How much longer do you think it'll take?
The first draft was complete, so I want to redo it because it wasn't up to my standards at all. So I think the remake will take probably about 6 months just to get perfect.
When you select a character, do you do it because you like the character, or do you do it more because of the design of the costume?
Because I like the character. Like Harley Quinn, who I am right now, I've been in love with her since I was a little girl and the animated series was on TV. Like she would come on screen and I'd be like, "Look, Mom, it's Harley!" So when I found out about cosplay, I was like, "Oh, well, that's who I want to cosplay." And with my other characters, it's always because they're either my favorite character in the series or I'm in love with them in some way or shape or form.
What drew you? Because a lot of cosplayers and just women, you know, women involved in conflicts are drawn to Harley Quinn. I see that a lot.
I've noticed that a lot.
What draws you to Harley Quinn so much?
For me, it's because she's just so fun-loving, happy-go-lucky, and also the fact that she is completely obsessed and hopelessly devoted to the Joker, who she loves. I mean, she will do anything for him, even illegal, doesn't matter. Whatever he says, she'll do. And no matter what, she'll keep going back to him. And even though people say, oh, the Joker just treats her wrong, there is a degree, as much as the Joker can, of love for Harley, dependency on her at some points. I just love their dynamic, and I love Harley's personality and her outlook on life.
And what other characters are you drawn to like that?
Not really with Harley's personality, but I am drawn to Mad Moxie from Borderlands, who's completely different in a way.
Yeah.
But just because she's so confident and like in control, and just again, she kind of has like a I don't really care attitude. Like she'll do whatever she wants because it's what makes her happy or what makes her laugh at the time. She'll do whatever.
What makes you the happiest when you cosplay? When you come to these conventions, I know you like dressing up.
I love it.
But what is I want to say satisfaction, but I don't want to use that word, but once you get to the convention, what really brings out?
What makes me the happiest?
Yeah.
I would say it's a tie between taking pictures with little kids,
yeah,
who are just like their faces light up when they see your character. Like I've had little girls who love Harley, and it's like, look, it's Harley, and just seeing how happy they are and being in character for them, that's one of the greatest feelings ever. And even like fighting with little kids dressed as Batman, that's fun too. Or a combination of meeting other people my age or around my age group dressed up as other Batman characters, other cosplay characters in my group, who just back and forth banter between them in character, taking pictures and getting to talk to them about other things that we love, like making friends, basically, making acquaintances. Those are my two.
Did you read comics when you were growing up?
I didn't read them when I was very little, but I watched X-Men, Spider-Man, Batman, and then once I started getting old enough, I read Archie, but that doesn't count, really, towards like DC and Marvel stuff. I started that when I was about a preteen, 12, 13, and then I just fell head first.
Can you remember what you used to read growing up? When you were like, in your preteens and why you read it?
The main Batman Detective Comics run, just for obvious reasons, I wanted to see Harley.
Yeah.
That's what first drew me to comics, was I wanted to see more of Harley past the animated series. And then I just got into the actual storyline, and I'm like, I love this entire universe. Like, it's not just Harley Quinn. There's so much more to it, and there's so many more storylines and more characters that you have feelings for, and you care about what happens to them. And past the Batman universe, I'm not really a DC person. I'm more Marvel, honestly.
Okay.
I follow The Amazing Spider-Man. That is an excellent run. I don't care who says anything.
Okay.
But yeah, those are the two I really remember reading when I was younger.
Okay, so what are you reading right now? What kind of books are you reading now?
Currently, I've strayed away from DC, unfortunately. I don't really like the direction we're taking with New 52. I'll pick up maybe 1 or 2 issues to skim through it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not following anything. I was reading AVX, Avengers vs. X-Men.
Okay.
I like that run. And again, more Amazing Spider-Man.
There's been, I was a comic book dealer for about 25 years.
Oh, really?
And I got kind of tired of the reboots and the remakes.
They're tiring.
And all this.
I understand that they want to bring in new readers, but it's tiring for the old readers.
Yeah, and the thing that I got just concerned about was when they totally redid Spider-Man again.
Yes.
When he was going through, the hunting down of who got shot Aunt May and all that. I really thought that Spider-Man was.
That was kind of hard to get through.
Do you think that reboots help characters, or do you think it really helps the publishers more in selling comic books?
I think it depends on how they do the character, how they do the storylines, because there have been some excellent reboots of some characters I think they want to do a little bit of both. They do want to expand on the character, but they really do want to draw in more publicity, more readers, because they want more people to buy comics. I mean, at the base of it, that's what it is.
As far as DC goes, is that what kind of tore you away from DC, as when they rebooted the entire universe?
Absolutely, without a doubt. I was at San Diego Comic-Con when they first did the reboot, and I was part of the protest, actually, the really, really small Harley Quinn protest against DC. But I don't think they did it for the characters at all. They did it to get more readers. I mean, I know some of them have even said that to us. They did it to garner more readers. They feel like they need younger readers. They feel like they need different readers. They've got the demographics they already have. They want new ones, and that's what they're doing with the storyline right now.
Okay. For years, mainly males have dominated comic books and gaming and all that. And the stereotype of a geek back in the day was the guy wearing the
little pen protector,
the pocket protector,
and the broken glasses,
and everything. Do you think women are portrayed in a certain stereotype?
Yes, they are, and it is getting better in recent years.
In what way do you think they are stereotyped?
People don't think that women can be geeks. They feel like if a girl is dressed up in a costume, or if a girl says anything about a character she likes, they don't know anything about the character. They're just saying it for the attention. And that is definitely, it is getting better in places, but it's still very prevalent on the internet and conventions. People are like, 2 years ago at Comic-Con, I was Harley Quinn, and I got comments like, as people are going by, oh, she doesn't know who Harley is. She doesn't know anything. That's all she knows. And it's like, actually, no. So I think there's not really like a physical appearance that's a stereotype of geek girls that I can think of, but there's the stereotype of the fake geek girl that we've heard so much about, discussed online, but as much as it's discussed, it's still a thing, it's still an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no such thing as a fake geek. You're a geek about something to some extent, no matter what it is.
Again, going back to the same question almost, do you think that women were involved in comic books back in the day, but they just took more of a back seat? Do you think they were afraid to come out and say, I am a Spider-Man fan. I collect comic books. I play games.
I do think that a lot of them were afraid of it, just because also there was the negative light shed on men as well back then. I mean, you think, like you said, the geek guy way back when, nobody wanted to be that guy.
Right.
So in today's society, it has gotten kind of more popular to be into comic books. So, but back then, I think the women, they already had enough issues of being yelled at or made fun of for other things. So, like, let's not add geek to that list.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there were women, like artists and publishers in the comic industry, but they weren't as prevalent as like other names out there.
That kind of goes to the next question. You know, just being here at the Sci Fi Expo, looking around the artist alley, it's mainly male artists.
It is mainly male artists.
Do you think that women, again, just don't have the confidence to come out and do this?
I want to say...
And compete with the guys, or do you think that they just don't want to do it?
I feel almost as if half of them are in costume themselves right now. So I have met some other costume girls out there who are like, oh yeah, well I draw, and I'm like, oh, that's excellent. But as far as like Adam Hughes and those sort, like that level of artist, I mean, Adam Hughes' wife is here and she does amazing art, and she's right next to him at her own booth. But I don't think anyone's really afraid. It's just a matter of accessibility to the convention. It is a smaller con. It's an amazing convention, but it's smaller. At Dallas Comic Con, they did have some more female artists, but it's just kind of a proportional issue, I think.
Right.
Is there are more men artists and comic book writers than there are women. So you're going to get more men in the convention.
Do you think that do you think that just the entire comic book artist scope, we really don't see a lot of female artists drawing comics? Do you think that it's just because there aren't many female comic book artists, or do you think that it's still a male dominated?
I want to say it is pretty male dominated, just in my experience of reading about what's going on with certain artists, like with DC, for instance. I mean, they had fired Gail Simone and rehired Gail Simone, that whole nonsense. But it does seem like there are less women involved in the actual publishing and drawing and creating of a comic. But it's because there aren't as many women interested, I think. I think I can't speak for the entirety of women, but I think their pursuits lie elsewhere, and there are women aspiring to be comic book artists, aspiring to be writers, but I think it's just a little bit harder for them to break into the industry. And I don't know why that is, but it seems like it's easier for a male to get into the field.
What female character, hero or villain outside of Harley Quinn would you like to see in their own comic book, movie, and game?
Outside of Harley Quinn.
Outside of Harley Quinn.
Darn.
Yeah.
That's my number one choice.
Ask the easy questions.
Well, my second favorite comic book woman, female, is Rogue from X-Men. And she was in the X-Men movies, but I would like to see I'm nostalgic to my core, so I would like to see a more, like, a bigger hair Rogue. Anna Paquin, she's amazing, but another, maybe focused more on when she's kind of more confident in herself, because she was, afraid of her powers in the movie. She was afraid of what she could do to people. Right. And Rogue has always got that fear, but as she matures, I guess, she's more like, okay, well, I know how to not touch people, and I know how to be, the badass that I am. And I want to see that portrayed more in film with Rogue, because I know they're redoing a lot of X-Men films. Right. With the First Class line, that movie.
What character would you like to see, again, outside of Harley Quinn, would you like to see in a comic book? Who would you like to see come to the forefront?
Most of my favorites are kind of in the forefront. Rogue, I believe she's had her own run. She's had a lot of publicity, a lot of attention. A smaller character that I do like.
It can be anybody.
And they're all kind of big. Like Mystique and Rogue are my favorites. Jubilee, actually.
Okay.
I loved Jubilee when I was little.
Jubilee is one of those characters that she's there,
but she's always in the background.
She doesn't really have a lot of main stories. They still treat her as the kid. Yeah. As the child.
And it's always her problem.
Yeah.
She doesn't like being treated as a kid, and they do that to her in writing, in comics. She hasn't really gotten a lot of attention.
Yeah. And comic books and just at conventions. And I'm speaking from, again, being a ex-comic book dealer and now as a publisher. Some women have come up to me and said, women today, they're drawn too sexy in the comic books, or they dress too sexy at conventions, and they don't portray the actual female. What are your comments on that?
My comments on that are, it's kind of a double-edged sword. I mean, like with Harley, she's completely covered head to foot. Her skin, well, not currently, but her skin isn't showing, but she's still sexy.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's a skin-tight costume. And as far as being dressed too sexily at a convention, I mean, if you're accurate, that's not really a fair comment to make. But women are drawn with gravity-defying clothing. A lot of them are. I mean, the Star Sapphires, I don't know how they keep their costumes on. I feel like that is the selling point, though. And as far as that goes, it's done for men as well. I mean, you can't deny it that you see these impossibly buff dudes wearing skin-tight costumes showing off their butts.
Yeah, but you really don't see the guys complain too much.
The guys don't really care because they're not looking at the guys in the comics.
Yeah.
And the women, there are a lot of more women who care about what other women look like than there are men who care about what other men look like. I mean, there are more women who would be bothered by a woman showing more skin than a man bothered by a man showing more skin.
Right.
Or less skin but more revealing clothing.
Yeah.
Spandex. It is a little bit of a problem, I feel, like shrinking clothing as like during panels in a comic. Like it'll be like this as big as like their torso and then shrink to show their belly button and then shrink to show like just the bra top.
Yeah.
It does happen, especially for comic book covers. But again, I think that's more of a selling factor than a demeaning sort of thing.
I think the conversations that I've had with women, they do feel that it's kind of demeaning and that it doesn't just represent the true.
Well, it is demeaning, but I don't think it's meant to be demeaning. Is what I meant by that.
Okay.
Because to a point, I mean, they do impossible poses that if a woman tried it, she'd break her spine. I mean, I don't see how it's possible for, say, Catwoman to show her ass and her boobs at the same time. That's not a possible pose. I can try, and I will hurt myself and fall over. Unless you are a contortionist.
Yeah.
Then, so that aspect, it's like, okay, it kind of makes, from a cosplayer's point of view, it's kind of like people expect that if you aren't, 38, 22, 38 in measurements, you're going to get looked at. It's like, well, you don't look like the comic book character. You're less of a woman. No, yeah. I'm not. I am a woman regardless of my measurements. Just because I don't have the impossible comic book figure doesn't mean that I'm less of a woman. And for someone to think that is just...
Okay, just a couple more questions.
It's upsetting.
If you could, hero or villain, what kind of character would you like to be in a comic book?
Ooh, that's
your
tough.
ultimate
like me
description as a comic book character.
Villain or
hero or villain?
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love villains. I play mostly villains when I dress up. Because I'd love to be Harley, but if I was my own, I think I'd be a hero. I mean, the villain role is fun, causing mayhem and all that stuff. But the fact of the matter is, I would rather help people than hurt them. At the end of the day,
would you rather be a hero or a anti-hero?
Anti-hero.
Okay.
I still run around and have the mischief and the fun, but I'd probably play the Catwoman stance. Catwoman doesn't like to hurt people unless, she has to. She's not going to go out there and just shoot people for fun or kill people for fun, drop them in vats of acid. She's just out there to make money, to steal priceless artifacts.
Yeah, real quick, that brought up a good question that I just thought of. Catwoman for years, when I was growing up, she was more of a villain.
Yes.
Now she's more...
she toes the line a lot more now. She helps Batman out more than she used to.
Do you think that's hurt her image in the DC universe or helped it?
I think it's actually helped it. Just because in the dynamics of, say, the Batman universe, the DC universe, you won't know if she'll help you or go against you, regardless of if you're a hero or a villain. You won't know if she's on your side or if she's working for the other guys. And I think that's an excellent writing point for her. Because it could go either way. I mean, the other makes the villains trust her less, makes the heroes trust her less. It makes the villains trust her more. It makes the heroes trust her more because maybe each side thinks that she'll spill secrets from either side. I mean, even in the Gotham City Sirens run, she was living with Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn, but towards the end, I mean, she was still helping Batman. So she plays the field. She does what's best for her.
Okay.
And it helps her.
Kind of like a Valentine's Day question. Do you think that in the superhero universe, do you think, especially with Spider-Man and Mary Jane and all that stuff, do you think that a hero should fall in love?
That's tough.
And let's say outside the comic book world, let's think about real life. Nobody can help falling in love.
Yeah, it's impossible. I mean, you're going to fall in love with you want to or not, and it can be a blessing or a curse.
But what
I
do you
don't
think
think
about
a
it
hero
in the comic book aspect? Do you think it hurts the character?
I think it makes them a lot more vulnerable. I mean, as so many movies and storylines have touched on, it's tough. It's very tough for a hero if they're in love with someone, because they are constantly worrying, what if one, my identity gets found out? They'll find out that this is the person that means the most to me, and I can't live with that on my hands if something happens to that person. Or just anything happening to them, period, and they weren't around to save them. It's their job to protect not only the city, but that person most of all. And if something happens to them and they're out doing something else, saving like a bank or whatever, and they get, like, their house gets robbed and she gets shot or he gets shot or anything, they're gonna feel like, well, I could have been there. I should have done more to save them.
Now let's flip that over from the hero to the villain, because we don't see a lot of villains falling in love.
Not really.
Do you think a villain like Harley Quinn, yeah, she's obsessed with, but she's also in love with another psycho. It's just
yeah, they're different. They're special.
Do you think villains would worry about that as much?
As far as villainous love goes, it has been done, and I mean, of course, Harley and Joker.
But there's not that many.
There's really not that many, and I think there's a good reason for that, because mainly the villainous characters are almost all, to a point, sociopaths, and they're really not going to care about falling in love. They've got more important things on their agenda. I mean, you can say that their true love is whatever hero is their nemesis. They're obsessed over that hero. They're concerned about that hero. They're obsessed with doing things to that hero. So really, they don't have time for love. They don't have time for that in their lives. They're doing.
But do you think that the comic books are written that way for a reason?
They are, because I mean, it's more interesting to read about a villain doing something evil and nefarious than a villain falling in love. I mean, you want the villain. You don't want to root for the villain. That's what they're riding towards. You don't want to be like, oh, I want the villain to go live happily ever after, because happily ever after for a villain, regardless of love interest, involves, mayhem, destruction. The hero loses.
Right.
So it's written that way, yeah.
Are you going to be coming to the Dallas Comic-Con?
Absolutely. I wouldn't miss it for the
And
world.
who can people look?
This far in advance, I will probably change my mind 3 times, but
That's
I can
okay.
guarantee I will be some form of Harley Quinn.
Okay.
Some form. I've got the classic Harley that I'm wearing now, Mad Love Harley Quinn. DC Universe Online, actually, with the helmet and the cape. That's one of my favorite costumes to wear. I might be the Amy Kami one. But I am trying to work on Rogue, and she might not be done for Dallas Comic-Con, but she will be done for San Diego Comic-Con. But for Dallas Comic-Con, look for Harley. I'll always have a giant hammer or a pop gun with me.
Well, Harley Quinn wouldn't be Harley Quinn without a giant hammer or a pop gun.
Exactly.
I really do thank you for your time.
Well, thank you.
It was a lot of fun talking to you, and we will get your interview up online as soon as we can.
Thank you for interviewing me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.